And Super Falcons of Nigeria meet the Lionesses of England in a decisive round of 16 encounter in Brisbane, Australia, in the FIFA Women's World Cup. We begin tonight from the country's south-south region. The Nigerian Navy has uncovered an illegal crude oil refining depot in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State, where about 35,000 liters of illegally stored crude oil was found. The suspects are on the run, but the buildings used for refining in Biogbolo community have now been sealed by Operation Delta Safe in the state.
This is Biogbolo in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa State capital, and standing on Tamara Street are these three buildings in a residential area. No one could ever imagine the illegal activities going on here, as from outside, things appear to be normal. But behind the walls is a large-scale economic sabotage where suspects on a daily basis refine stolen crude.
Based on credible intelligence, the commander, Operation Delta Safe, directed a snap raid on a facility around Tamara Street, Biogbolo, Bayelsa, which is being used as a reservoir for illegally refined products. And on reaching here, it was discovered that the facility is housing about 3 reservoirs with a cumulative quantity of about 35,000 liters of illegally refined products suspected to be AGO. The building has been taken over. We have 3 buildings and 3 dugout pits, with also a vehicle carrying jerry cans, about 38 jerry cans, also filled with the illegally refined products. This is just to show that the OPDS is not relenting in its efforts at getting rid of criminals whose illegal activities are impinging on the economy of the country.
Buyers of this crude, according to eyewitnesses, stay some meters away from the buildings, and the pipe that's underground discharges refined products into waiting tankers.
I never knew it's an illegal job. Now that it has happened, I don't know what next. Our fate now lies in the hand of the military and a God. Me, I don't know. And I can't say, just product he's selling to feed his family and his wife. We didn't kill anybody, neither did we do any kidnappers. We are selling product to feed our family.
This business is really affecting me because I had nothing to do, because ever since I finished my school, there's no job and nothing, and this is the only business that I use in supporting my family, and that is the only thing I do. So the business really affects me very well, seriously. Normally, I make 10,000 a month, and little expenses that I gain from customers that I use it taking care of myself.
This latest discovery comes weeks after the uncovering of illegal refineries also in Bayelsa local government area and the boundary communities in Ogbia local government area, also in Bayelsa State.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Navy and the management of Tentita Securities have continued to trade words over the arrest of MT Prezel vessel in Delta State. At a media briefing today in Yenagoa, Rear Admiral Olusegun Ferreira told journalists that the vessel was not carrying any stolen product, but the management of Tentita says that the vessel, which was sailing to Bonny, had no indication of the port of discharge on the document.
Tentita Security Services Nigeria Limited, a private security company engaged by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, on August the 2nd, arrested a vessel, MT Prezel, in a mission it described as illegal. According to Tentita management, it received an intelligence report that the said vessel was supposed to sail from Koko to Lagos, but was sailing to Bonny in Rivers State with nothing indicating the port of discharge in their document. This information was what led to its arrest and detention.
What I want from you is the one he's taking now. So don't stop me. No, nobody. This is the first time we are here. that were sent to the
Simple, simple. Why they,
if we were here yesterday, would have
it's a
come here
different
today.
question you asked.
This is the
You are
only
beginning to
sample
interrogate.
your office is taking from this vessel, right?
That we are aware of.
They are aware of.
The office is a large office.
Tantita explains that further scrutiny reveals the documents of the vessel show discrepancies in the permits of Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority and the naval clearance, adding that attempts to take samples from the vessel was resisted by the naval personnel, which prompted the disembarkment from the vessel and escalation of the issue to higher authority. In a media briefing in Yenagoa, Rear Admiral Olusegun Ferreira, Commander JTF Operation Delta Safe, explains that Tantita did not intercept or arrest MT Prazel, but the vessel was directed to proceed to Anchorage for investigation.
It is necessary to clarify that pipeline surveillance contractors, including Tantita, are only to provide credible intelligence to the OPDS elements working with them and are not permitted to independently carry out operations or intercept and arrest any vessel. It is noteworthy that in this case, Tantita did not intercept or arrest MT Prazel, but the vessel was directed to proceed to Anchorage for investigation.
He also states that on the 3rd and 4th of August, samples of the products in MT Prazel was taken for the test by the Nigerian Navy, Tantita, and the NMDPRA, who is the regulator on matters relating to mid and downstream petroleum products in Nigeria.
Away from oil theft to politics, and the National Assembly and the Senate continued the screening of President Bola Tinubu's ministerial nominees over the weekend with a special sitting on Saturday. The upper chamber had previously screened some nominees on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. 5 ministerial nominees faced the lawmakers on Saturday, while the remaining 2 will appear tomorrow, Monday, August the 7th. Our correspondent, Linda Kibe, reports.
The Senate returns to plenary on Saturday for the screening of the 7 remaining ministerial nominees. The nominee from Lagos, Mrs. Lola Adejohn, is the first to be screened. A financial and ICT expert, Mrs. Adejohn promises to bring her wealth of experience to the table in the new administration if confirmed by the Senate. While she's poised to answer questions from legislators, a lawmaker is emphatic that she be asked to take a bow when exits the stage.
My career spans, as you can see, the oil and gas industry, as well as the banking and financial services, both local and international.
Distinguished colleagues, we need a Lola in this government. Lola is brilliant. Lola is good. Let Lola go. Let Lola breathe. Thank you.
Next up is a ministerial nominee from Ogun State, Mr. Isiaq Salako. A medical doctor by training, Mr. Salako offers solutions to the brain drain in the health sector.
Job satisfaction, the environment that you work with, the equipment to work with, is also a very important element in encouraging people to leave the country. I believe in tackling the brain drain issue, we need to look at that.
The screening session turns dramatic when it gets to the turn of another nominee from Ogun State, Mr. Bosun Tijani. A federal lawmaker, Senator Abdul Fattah Buhari, brings to the attention of his colleagues tweets made by Mr. Tijani, which he finds distasteful. He demands an explanation from the nominee.
On the 21st of July 2019, Dr. Bosun tweeted, let me quote it exactly from the way he put it. Nigeria is a bloody expensive tag to have against your name. Leave patriotism for a minute. That tag is bloody waste of time and energy. But a country. End of quote.
I was in the UK and I was trying to apply for my Chinese visa because I did not need visa to every other country. I got to the embassy and I was told that it would take me 2 days to get my Chinese visa. I was excited. And the gentleman said, what do you do? Where's your pay slip? I said, I run my business. He says, we have to see your bank account statement. I said, I'm happy to provide it, but my business is fully domiciled in Nigeria. The moment I mentioned Nigeria, the gentleman said they have to do a special check on me, and it was going to take minimum 2 weeks. In anger, I tweeted what you read, which was paraphrased wrongly.
However, a federal lawmaker comes to his aid.
Let me speak in pidgin English. Sometimes in this country, they choke. They choke us. Sometimes, when young people tweet what they tweet and they express their frustration on social media, I want you to know that we are doing this out of the love that we have for this country.
It's not yet Uhuru for Mr. Tijani, as the Senate Minority Leader digs up another tweet supposedly made by the nominee. However, help comes in the form of a Senate Majority Leader.
What sort of checks are done by at the Nigerian Senate when they confirm appointees and the media? Question for another day. Until we ask the right questions, these morons will continue to take us for granted.
We need to move on with this generation. We need to put this behind us. So, of course, if he said anything that he shouldn't have said, he's here to apologize.
I want to profusely apologize to everyone in this hall, including anyone anywhere in Nigeria that may have been offended about everything I said. I ask that you please, in the process of accepting my apology, that you look at the undertone of everything I've said.
After apologizing, Mr. Tijani is subsequently left off the hook, and the upper chamber goes on to screen other nominees. Hours later, the Senate steps down the screening of 2 ministerial nominees until Monday, August 7th. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
We'll definitely have more on the ministerial nominees in part 2 after the break. The deadline by ECOWAS to Niger Republic military junta expires today. What's next for the regional body's leadership? I'll be joined by data analyst Babajide Oguzo for his perspectives. Do join us again.
Office. He said I should get in the blue file. It's here somewhere. Bro, the file was right in front of him. He just moved his finger and said, that would be all. Down this trophy. My guy. My main guy. It was my introduction now. Fast forward to today. This guy don't japa. Go London. And for IG, now they see the congratulatory message.
Take this cheap bottle. Take fish and well.
Next round's on me! Every Nigerian deserves a trophy, don't we?
The Duchess International Hospital opened its doors in October 2021. The mission of the hospital is to reverse medical tourism. We take particular care here at the Duchess to bring together a combination of the brightest and the best locally, as well as Nigerians in the diaspora who are interested in returning to do very good work for the benefit of our patients here in this country.
The good thing is that we have all international expertise here, all international facilities here, international people working here. Everything is coming together in a space which was considered not great in terms of the availability of healthcare.
Access Bank, of course, has been able to provide us with a robust range of products and services that has enabled us to deliver that standard and quality of healthcare that is integral to our mission as an organization.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. Nigeria is still far from ending oil theft as those behind it appear unrelenting. Military uncovers yet another stolen crude depot in Biogbolo community of Bayelsa State, 35,000 litres found. After a marathon week of screening ministerial nominees, the Senate is to reconvene on Monday to conclude the exercise with screening of two more nominees, Festus Keyamo and Maria Mahmood. ECOWAS deadline to Niger Republic military junta expires today. What's next for regional bodies leadership? I'll be joined by data analyst Babajide Ogunsanya for his perspectives. And Super Falcons of Nigeria meet the Lionesses of England in a decisive round of 16 encounter in Brisbane, Australia. Now, with the likely inauguration of members of his cabinet in just a couple of days, expectations abound that President Bola Tinubu should consider competency and past antecedents of the ministers designates in assigning portfolios to them, especially in key ministries that are crucial to the country's rapid economic development. In this report, Channels Television sampled opinions of Nigerians across different walks of life in different regions of the country on their expectations ahead of the new cabinet's confirmation.
As the screening of ministerial nominees winds down, Nigerians are setting an agenda for the incoming cabinet members.
Clarify it and take a bow.
In Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, a cross-section of residents who spoke to Channels Television say security reports of the nominees is necessary. Their track records and especially the vision of President Bola Tinubu must drive the choice to fix those appointed into various ministries.
It's not about individual, it's not about the past assignment they have engaged in, but it depends on the vision of the president itself.
Some Port Harcourt residents want President Bola Tinubu to put round pegs in round holes to ensure maximum effectiveness and efficiency in listing the designation of the ministerial nominees.
Our refineries have not worked for how many years right now, and that's the core of the problem we're having right now. If our refineries were working at optimal capacity, we don't need to import petrol into this country, and at the end of the day, we won't pay subsidy. Now that subsidy has been removed, you see the hardship it's causing for people. We want somebody with that sagacity that will push the refineries to work immediately.
And from Benin City, the Edo State capital, public affairs analysts who share their opinions believe the nominees are mostly qualified. However, prerogatives should sway towards policies rather than technicalities.
The economy is there. We're just talking about withdrawal of subsidy now, and most Nigerians are reeling under the yoke of hardship, economic hardship. So we may also look for the gurus amongst them who will be able to devise very good measures to address our situation.
Nigerians want a lot positive result, pragmatic result, progressive result, dynamic result. So we need this kind of people that we believe are not self-centered.
For a country faced with socio-economic challenges, there are expectations that the minister delegates would hit the ground running immediately after their inauguration. A public affairs analyst, Abdul Rahman Usman, and the president of Arewa Youth Consultative Forum, Yerima Shetima, expect that the key ministries such as power, works, should be headed by technocrats and nominees with the antecedents of performance and experience of governance.
You have likes of El-Rufai, who we've seen what he has done in Kaduna. If you man him somewhere, like in the area of powers, I have no doubt in my mind we're likely going to experience something very beautiful.
With the expectation that the ministerial nominees would assist President Bola Tinubu in realizing the renewed hope agenda, some analysts see some of the nominations as mere political compensation that would not yield the much desired results.
We have a team of technocrats, likely though there are some that we know is out of political expediency of trying to do a payback.
And in the Federal Capital Territory, Samson Itodo and Amzad Lawal say they expected more representation of youth, women, and persons with disabilities on the ministerial list. They want the president to put political sentiment aside and assign persons with credibility and requisite experience to serve when assigning portfolios to the ministerial nominees.
Yes, we know that some people on the list got on the list because they worked for his victory.
and politically you have to ensure that you ensure loyalty is covered. And then you have people who are technocrats who have skills and capacity and vast experience. So Mr. President must ensure that balance.
We don't know how the president is going to engage with his ministers. And what is really critical is that he's got to set, KPIs. He's got to hold them to certain contracts. And if they don't perform, he's got to show them the exit door. The second critical thing that Nigerians are actually looking at is whether these individuals that have been appointed are truly committed to the Nigerian project. And it's critical, the Nigerian project, because we're grappling, with polarization, with, divisions across different lines. And these ministers must help the president foster national unity and integration.
The ministers designate have no portfolios attached to them by the president yet. The senators screened for the 6 out of the nominees, and 2 additional names sent by the president are yet to be screened.
The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has sued President Bola Tinubu over what they say is his failure to publish spending details of about 400 billion naira so far saved as a result of the removal of subsidy on petrol. The suit followed reports that the government saved an initial 400 billion naira within the first 4 weeks of implementing the policy. The rights group is seeking an order of mandamus to direct and compel President Tinubu to publish the details of spending of about 400 billion naira saved from the subsidy removal. It is also seeking an order of mandamus to direct and compel President Tinubu to provide details of the plans on how the savings from the removal of subsidy on petrol, including specific projects on which the funds will be spent. SERAP argues that Nigerians have the right to know how the savings are spent in order to reduce the risks of corruption in the spending of the funds. By midnight of today, the ultimatum given by the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, will have expired. President Bola Tinubu and his colleagues had shut land and air borders, among other sanctions announced against Niger Republic. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent Amarachi Ubani highlights the developments in and around that country.
It has been nearly 2 weeks since a section of the Niger army toppled the government of Mohamed Bazoum and installed General Abdurrahman Tchiani as the country's new military leader. But it is a development that has spurred regional power ECOWAS to move against it. Hours after the junta announced its takeover, ECOWAS chair and Nigeria's president, Bola Tinubu, condemned the coup and called on the coup plotters to immediately release the democratically elected president. The coup would be the 7th on the continent, the 4th in West Africa, and the closest to Nigeria. A week later, ECOWAS convened an extraordinary meeting in the Nigerian capital, Abuja, where they not only again condemned the coup, but also announced sanctions on Niger Republic. Among the sanctions itemized in ECOWAS communique were the closure of all air and land borders against Niger, the imposition of a no-fly zone over the country, freezing of Niger's accounts in the West African Economic Union, as well as in regional banks, and an ultimatum to the junta to reinstate Mohamed Bazoum as president. Bazoum, still under close surveillance by the junta, shared ECOWAS' decision, calling on the regional power as well as other foreign powers to ensure his reinstatement. ECOWAS also began considering military intervention in Niger. ECOWAS' 7-day ultimatum expires soon, and there's been no word on what happens next. Security consultant Dr. Oluwaseyi Adetayo says ECOWAS options are now limited.
When you are responding to coup d'etat or to unconstitutional government in a country, there are 4 ways or 4 approaches to this. One is for you to make a very hard, rejection. Another one is a soft rejection. The third one is soft acceptance, and the last one is hard acceptance.
But other analysts call for caution. The Nigerian junta last week condemned ECOWAS sanctions as inhumane, and the Mali and Burkina Faso juntas say any military intervention by ECOWAS will be seen as a declaration of war.
I thought we should be more circumspect in deciding military actions, particularly given the fact that in the last 10 or so years, our own military have had issues. trying to resolve the insecurity in Nigeria, particularly in the Northeast. And as of today, the Nigerian military, I think it's in 32 out of the 36 states. So already our military is overstretched.
Later in the week, on the streets of the Nigerian capital, Niamey, supporters of the junta protested ECOWAS sanctions, celebrated the evacuation of foreign nationals from the country, and the 63rd anniversary of Niger's independence from France. The self-declared new leader of Niger says the junta will not bow to pressure to reinstate ousted President Mohamed Bazoum. General Abdurrahman Tichani later said Niger is on transitional path to democratic elections. In his statewide televised address, he said they'd always been humble enough to listen to all parties concerned and open to dialogue, so that once everyone's emotions have subsided, they can work together to create the conditions for a peaceful transition, leading in a short and reasonable time to general elections. So ideally, it does appear the junta has a plan to restore civilian rule. Whether it will include Mohamed Bazoum is yet to be decided. The onus now is on ECOWAS to explore more options to convince the junta out of power, or unilaterally prepare for war, not only with Niger, but with Mali and Burkina Faso, which have declared support and allegiance to each other. Amarachi Ubani, Channels Television News.
Now, as you already know, this time last week, the West African sub-regional bloc ECOWAS had given military leaders in the Republic of Niger a one-week ultimatum to revert to democracy under the elected leader, President Mohamed Bazoum. Babajide Ogunsoro, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data consultant, is here to share insights about the evolving situation in the Republic of Niger. Babajide, it's great to have you again on the News at 10.
Anthony, good evening.
So first up, the ECOWAS deadline is, I can say, is already upon us. First of all, where do we go from here?
Well, so I think what is clear is we're about to find out if ECOWAS is short-sighted or if ECOWAS is long-sighted. I'll share a short story with you. 6.5 dozen years ago, exactly on this day, August 6, 1945, America dropped the first atomic bomb the world had ever seen on Hiroshima. The goal was to get Hiroshima to surrender. Tonight, the ECOWAS deadline is here. The focus is not on how America got Hiroshima to surrender. The focus now is what will ECOWAS do to get General Tichani in the Republic of Niger to surrender? There's some good news and there's bad news. All right, so the good news is Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Mustafa, has made it very clear the right thing will be done. The bad news is we still have not been able to agree on what is the right thing to do. That is the challenge. And so, more than ever before, in ECOWAS' 4 dozen decades history, ECOWAS faces its largest threat, a disintegration risk. Now, I'll explain this disintegration risk by taking a look at, let's take a look at exactly the structure of today's ECOWAS and the challenges ECOWAS faces. And here's why we talk about the disintegration risk ECOWAS faces. The map in front of you allows us to understand a couple of things. The first is we now have a block of 2 countries, Cape Verde and Guinea-Bissau, Portuguese-speaking countries. Pretty much these countries are neutral because of their size when it comes to negotiations within the ECOWAS bloc, first bloc. We now have a second bloc, ECOWAS Francophone military bloc, which has 4 military countries, 4 countries that have military heads of state out of ECOWAS 8 Francophone-speaking countries. So first bloc, 2 Portuguese. Second bloc, 2 Francophone military. The third bloc, 4 Francophone non-military. And the fifth bloc, 5 Anglophone non-military. And so ECOWAS, the structure of ECOWAS is now significantly different from what it was before July
26 when we saw General Abdul Rahman Tichani declaring himself as the new head of state for Niger. So that is the challenge we face. Despite all what is going on, ECOWAS now faces a disintegration risk, and we're about to find out if it is short-sighted or long-sighted.
Now, let's talk about the sanctions, of course, which are already in force. How do you think this will affect the military leaders? Because apparently it's getting tough for citizens of Niger, if I must say. No electricity, borders are now being closed. So what do you think will be going on as far as the military leaders in Niger Republic are concerned, in their minds?
So in their minds, it's for us as citizens need to understand and profile these leaders. These leaders are significantly different in thinking from Nigeria's president and chairman of ECOWAS, and I'll explain. You have one of these countries, Burkina Faso. The leader, Ibrahim Traoré, a 35-year-old, when he was born, ECOWAS had been founded. He didn't, is shown that he's courageous, even though some will call that negative courage. But the summary is Ibrahim Traoré in that space has shown that he's highly irrational. Second, let's look at the head of state in Mali as well, a young officer, 43-year-old, that's Assimi Goïta. Again, he has shown to be highly irrational. Let's look at what is going on in Guinea. Head of state, 43 years old, again, young officer, he has shown tendencies to be highly irrational. Idriss Déby, that went to visit General Tishani, 39 years old.
That's from Chad.
From Chad, not in the ECOWAS bloc, highly irrational. So what we've seen is Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, all relatively young leaders, highly irrational, and they have shown negative courage. Again, in one block, we've seen that, and then we then have the president of ECOWAS, President Tinubu, from a different generation. And so ECOWAS needs to understand that the thinking of their leadership is different from the thinking of these young officers. And so we need to understand that they could be more irrational and do surprises than many expect.
So what do you think have been the most significant events since the ECOWAS ultimatum was declared?
Before the ultimatum, we need to understand what happened before the ultimatum. And if we take a look at the calendar of events that even brought President Bazoum into office, we'll see a lot of interesting things. First is, since April 2nd, 2021, President Bazoum of Niger has been under immense pressure. 2 days before he was sworn in, there was an attempted coup. So we've seen the challenge of a President Bazoum presidency for a long time. Fast forward to July 9th, President Bola Tinubu was declared chairman of ECOWAS. But since July 9th, a lot of things have happened. Look at July 19th. July 19th, President Bazoum was unconstitutionally removed from office, and those challenges started from July 19th into July 26th. Looking at the timeline of events, you see Tishani was announced as the new head of government. We fast forward into the 30th of July when the ECOWAS sanction was announced. And again, the events continued. The following day, on the 31st, the government of Burkina Faso, Mali, again called those sanctions illegal, and their own military head strongly warned against military intervention into Niger. That was on the 30th.
In other words, staying in solidarity with the military leaders in Niger.
Exactly. Don't forget, young, shown tendencies to be highly irrational, shouldn't be underrated. Again, so we're finally in the position where recently the United States Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, said he had spoken to President Bazoum. Interestingly, the United States hasn't still called this a coup. They call it an attempted coup. And again, that is because they still want to have some sort of bilateral relationship with Niger. And so we have this situation where will ECOWAS send delegation to Niamey as well this week, and it's been tense. So pretty much that summarizes where we are today, looking at the timeline of events that have happened.
Which brings me to the next question now. What will the relationship of Nigeria and Niger Republic, look like with all this that's going on in Niger Republic?
Anthony, geographically speaking, the relationship between Nigeria and the Republic of Niger is interesting. In fact, some say it's Nigeria is English-speaking Nigeria and Niger is Francophone-speaking Nigeria. And that's because, let's take a look at, if you look at the distance between Sokoto to Lagos. Sokoto to Lagos is 13 hours. Sokoto to Niamey, 6 hours. But in the final analysis, we need to make some strong recommendations to the chairman of ECOWAS. And the first is there has to be a negotiation for win-win. The military leaders in the Republic of Niger have to have a sense that they are winning some things at the negotiation table. ECOWAS too has to have some sense that they are winning. So the first is we need to look for a win-win solution. The second is ECOWAS needs to avoid a proxy war. Beyond what is going on between Nigeria and the Republic of Niger, we understand there are a lot of behind-the-scenes moves. Russia is involved, France is involved, the United States is involved, the European Union are involved. Again,
we wouldn't want to see the region turn into some kind of a hotbed for some...
Lots of proxy wars. We've talked about the importance of uranium to these countries. The fact shows that 20% of all uranium imports by the European Union comes from Niger. So there's a lot going on beyond what we know. In the final analysis, my advice to President Tinubu will be he should remember that sometimes what he cannot see is more important than what's in front of him.
And we'll definitely leave it at that, Babajide Ogunsowo. Thank you so much for your thoughts again on the News at 10. Communities in Ningi local government area of Bauchi State have been witnessing a series of attacks by bandits in the last couple of months. This has prompted the police to launch a series of operations in the forests of Ningi. Some arrests have already been made and some bandits were neutralized in the process, as the Bauchi State Commissioner of Police, Awal Mohammed, reports that the operations have been largely successful. Our correspondent, Hajara Aliyu, tells us more.
This route leads to the forest in Ningi local government area of Bauchi State, where bandits operate. The police carries out a joint operation in the forest, and this led to the arrest of these young adults suspected to be kidnappers. They admit being responsible for the recent attack on Kada village, which led to the death of 7 people, including a ward head. They claim that they were initiated into this by their eldest brother.
They received 2 million naira each as ransom from the victim and gave us 10,000 naira each.
The Bauchi State Police Command appears to be taking a more aggressive approach, as the police commissioner declares that it is reviewing its strategy.
The arrest of the above suspect was insinuation to the command operation, which led to the dismantling of the kidnappers' hideouts situated at Bora Forest due to the intense superior firepower by the police. So many kidnappers were neutralized, while others scamper in this area and escape with bullet wounds.
Some of the corpses of the bandits have been recovered from the forest, and the police explains that it has freed over 10 kidnapped victims, recovered 70 rustled cows, dangerous weapons, and money during the operations. These 3 are suspected informants and accomplices of the bandits. Ningi local government area has not had it good in the last couple of months, with communities saying kidnapping had become almost a daily occurrence. The Emir of Ningi applauds the efforts of the police.
Our subjects, our people, all over have understood the situation and they are cooperating. So therefore, I would like to not to relent, please. Do so best as far as we can to help and eradicate these idiots in this my area.
The Bora forest has been cleared, as the police also declares that the operation will continue. Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television News.
We're in Benue State now, where Governor Hyacinth Alia has denied claims by the opposition People's Democratic Party that he is in breach of Section 147 of the 1999 Constitution, which requires him to appoint cabinet members within 60 days, noting that he forwarded his nominations to the State Assembly. Governor Alia made this declaration while addressing journalists at the Government House in Makodi, where he also denied allegations of a frosty relationship between him and the secretary to the government of the Federation, which may have been the reason for delays in making key appointments into his administration.
More than 69 days after Governor Hyacinth Alia of Benue State assumed office, amidst rancor within the ranks of the ruling All Progressives Congress in the state over power-sharing formula, the governor is yet to constitute his cabinet. While the party prefer Becky Opine as candidate for the State Assembly speakership, loyalists of the governor had their way when Ondona Dajo emerged Speaker of the 10th Assembly amidst confrontations at the chambers. Since then, the relationship between the camp of the governor and that of the secretary to the government of the Federation, George Akume, exposed the cracks. The governor has, however, denied insinuations that he's at loggerheads with the SGF.
I don't have any crisis with the SGF. He is my leader. He is the APC party leader, and I respect that 100%.
But the People's Democratic Party, which has accused him of many wrong steps, claims the governor is in constitutional breach of Section 147, which requires the governor to name his cabinet within 60 days.
The governor of Benue State is under mandatory obligation of law to submit names of nominees for screening and confirmation as commissioners to be appointed into his cabinet within 60 days of his taking oath of office. However, the Benue State governor failed to adhere to this requirement of law.
Remember, we were given 60 days for the formation to be, for the names to be submitted and formation made. I fulfilled my constitutional right to do that. A letter was given, list was also made. It is left for the assembly to announce when they want to do the screening. They have actually given me a date when they want to do that, but I cannot do their work for them.
69 days after assuming office, there is no official communication from the governor's office or the State Assembly on the names of the nominees, prompting a suspicion that all may not be well within the ruling APC on power sharing.
Now to the courts. The People's Democratic Party, the third respondent in the Adamawa State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Yola, have withdrawn its star witness following arguments as to how the witness should be categorized. The party had presented a former minister as its star witness following the admission of more than 200 pages of documents which had earlier been marked as exhibits as presented by counsels to the first respondent.
It is a continuation of hearing at the Adamawa State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Yola. Arguments and counter-arguments ensue between the petitioner and the PDP, being the third respondent in the petition filed by the APC's Adamawa State Governorship candidate, Senator Aishatu Dahiru Binani. Shortly after the day's proceedings, lead counsel to the petitioner describes the respondent's decision to withdraw its star witness as favorable to its case.
Well, we are very comfortable with the way the proceedings went. Now, the first respondent, that's INEC, has said they are entitled to do under the law, tender documents, and then didn't call any witness to speak to those documents. And then the second respondent, that's the governor, opened his own defense, called one witness, and then closed his case. That is, he's not calling any more witnesses. Then the third respondent, that's PDP, now applied to open their own defense.
Counsels to Governor Fintiri and the People's Democratic Party explain why the party withdrew its witness before the tribunal.
Now, parties have been given time to file their final arguments. Altogether, about 21 days is allotted by the rules for the filing of final arguments. And so by the grace of Almighty God, we shall come back here on the 12th of September and take our final arguments. And after that, it will be judgment.
And we're of the opinion that the third respondent can conveniently close its case at this point because there is nothing, by our own assessment, on the marginal scale for which the third respondent is expected to report. And that's why we took that position.
Although INEC, Governor Amadou Fintiri and the PDP being the first, second, and third respondents, have effectively closed their cases, the tribunal has adjourned sitting to the 12th of September 2023, giving the parties involved 21 days to present their final arguments.
As part of efforts to mitigate the effect of flooding predicted by the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, the governor of Yobe State, Mai Mala Buni, has directed the evacuation of all drainage channels in the state, as well as repairs of bridges, culverts, and roads washed away by the 2022 flood. The permanent secretary of the Ministry of Works, while inspecting the progress of work, says the project will be completed before the rainy season gets to its peak.
In 2022 alone, 74 persons were confirmed dead as houses, farmlands across almost 17 local government areas of Yobe State were affected by the flood, causing poor harvest. After the Nigerian Meteorological Agency predicted of possible floods in some parts of the country, including Yobe State, Governor Mai Mala Buni is taking proactive measures to avert a recurrence of the flood this year by evacuating drainages, repair of roads, bridges, and culverts.
Going to 3 spots right now with you people. You have seen Katarko, you have seen Bunigari, and you have seen Buniyadi. All these 3 spots were approved by His Excellency, and the ministry constructed the embankments of the roads, and in the next 2-3 days we'll open the roads for vehicles to flow the area.
The government also came up with other strategies of house-to-house sensitization in communities on the major causes of floods and its dangers to healthcare.
His Excellency has graciously approved the secondment of 2,670 staff from local government to the state to see that things go well in the environmental sector by assigning 7 people per ward to go for house-to-house inspection and enlightenment of the general public on the way and manner in which they dump their refuse.
Some of the benefiting communities applaud the state government for the repairs.
We are grateful. Before now, I only make 1 trip from my village to Boniyadi, but now I come here at least twice in just 2 hours. The road is now good. Last year by this time, we found it difficult to travel, but this year, the road repairs is almost completed, remaining the lane of the Amphats.
The rainy season in most parts of the state is yet to reach its peak, and many are scared that heavy rains may cause flooding in the area if the flood drainages are not properly cleared.
Barring any changes, the National Association of Resident Doctors have renewed their intention to down tools on Wednesday, the 9th of this month. The NARD president, Dr. Emeka Orji, explains that they will also picket other healthcare institutions across the country. Dr. Orji was a guest on our political program, Sunday Politics.
The demands that we made, which everybody, there is no government official that has tried to intervene in this matter that has ever told us that those demands are not germane and that they shouldn't be met. But the question is, up to now, how come none of those issues have been addressed? No single one of them. Take, for instance, the very important issue of a 1-for-1 replacement. You see, we keep hammering on these things, and the Nigerians will agree with us that our hospitals are massively depleted. We do not have the numbers anymore. We do not have the doctors and nurses to take care of Nigerians. And that circular we were promised as at February this year that it will be released. And up till now, it has not, because it is that circular that we give the chief medical directors across the country the opportunity to quickly replace doctors and nurses that have left the system in search of greener pastures. And as long as you don't do that, our members will continue to be overworked, they will continue to die, they will continue to break down, and we don't think that should continue to happen. That is what has led to this escalation that will likely happen by this week if the government agencies involved do not take appropriate steps to address these issues that we've been raising for a long time now.
The chairman of the FCT chapter of the Nigerian Medical Association, Dr. Charles Ogwai, is asking the federal government to take proactive measures towards ensuring the safety of medical personnel and a safe work environment. Addressing a news conference in Abuja ahead of the annual FCT NMA week, Dr. Ogwai describes the avoidable death of Dr. Ware Diaso as a case of murder, which must be investigated with the aim of prosecuting the culprits.
Thanks so much. We are dressed in black today because we are solidarizing with our brothers and sisters in the Nigerian Medical Association Lagos State branch. As you are aware, in the last 1 week, the news is filled up with a very bad and sad development in the Nigerian Medical Association Lagos State branch, where a young doctor, house officer in the line of her duty, was trapped in a lift that collapsed and lost her life. So we are all in a very mourning mood. And while we pray for the repose of our soul and the souls of all the faithful departed, we want to send a message out there that the Nigerian Medical Association, we are indeed not happy with the poor working condition, which on this occasion has resulted in the death of this youngster with a very bright future ahead.
While the panel of inquiry set up by the Lagos State government to investigate the elevator accident which resulted to the death of Dr. Ware Diaso at the General Hospital in Lagos Island has submitted its report. In that report, it says the elevator doors were damaged due to the impact and needed to be forced open to rescue the trapped house officer. She was extracted at about 7:50 p.m. and resuscitation commenced immediately, but then she stopped breathing around 8:13 p.m. and CPR commenced. This went on until 8:59 p.m. when she was pronounced dead. The findings also pointed out that it is not true that blood was not available at the hospital. The statement also says that the state has a strong network of screening centers where blood is available. And now to the arts. Revelation is a group exhibition by graduating students from the Visual Arts Unit in the Creative Arts Department at the University of Lagos. We see the talent presented by these young creatives on Art Review tonight.
Eight visual artists get their day in the sun as the over 100 works of art created by them are displayed in an exhibition tagged Revelation at the University of Lagos.
We are using the title Revelation because we are about to unleash and reveal to the world a new set of masters artists to shake the contemporary art world.
These graduating students from the Visual Arts Unit in the Creative Arts Department show they are ready to take on the world with breathtaking images done in different media.
I've seen here today excellent work that would stand out anywhere in the world. I've seen great work produced by young people who clearly have made a statement with their work. So I'm so much excited to have been here today, and we're certainly going to leave with a couple of the items today. Very impressive.
Some of them explain the issues being exposed in their pieces.
My work is basically talking about colorism in Africa. There's an issue which is popularly known as bleaching, where darker people bleach their skin tones to be lighter, and then they have all sorts of diseases like cancer, and then there's discoloration, kidney problems. But this issue starts because people are always saying women are too dark, or African women are too dark, can they be lighter? So this series is called Your Melanin is Too Dark. It's sarcastic, like, what do you mean my melanin is too dark? Melanin is the pigment that makes our skin tone dark. So this series is supposed to just counter what people say, like when they say you have to be lighter to fit this office role, or you have to be lighter to become this actress, you have to be lighter. Like, dark-skinned people are beautiful, so there's no need to bleach. So that's what basically this series is about.
The message is also key. This sort of engagement and exposure is crucial for these young creatives to have a taste of what is expected of them as visual artists.
In less than 24 hours, Nigeria's Super Falcons will be facing England in the round of 16 at the ongoing FIFA Women's World Cup at the Brisbane Stadium in Australia. The aim for the Super Falcons is not only to reach the last 8 as they did in 1999, but surpass it. Our correspondent, Cecilia Moribwe, tells us more ahead of the game.
It's the final training session for the Super Falcons of Nigeria, and they understand what is at stake. If you lose at this stage, you're going home.
England is a good team, we all know. But you know what, Nigeria is good too, and in fact Nigeria is better because if you look at the graph, since 1991 up to now, you see that the graph will have a long way, and that means that we have come to stay. If we have played up to this extent, I don't think tomorrow will be an exception. They are good, but we're going to take them one by one. I will make sure that all the loopholes, we have been able to cover it. But I trust the girls, and I trust Nigerians that are back home praying for us. And I want to tell them we're not going to put them into shame.
This is the venue, the Suncorp Stadium, where the Super Falcons of Nigeria and 3 Lionesses of England will be playing in the round of 16. For the Super Falcons of Nigeria, they are on the verge of making history, of becoming the most successful team. If they beat England on Monday, they will get into the quarterfinals. The last time Nigeria were in the quarterfinals, it was a 16-team tournament. For the players, they're anticipating a tough clash.
The team is prepared, and we're all prepared individually and collectively. So, yeah, of course, we've been playing against soft teams in the tournament, and yeah, it's not going to be an exception tomorrow, so we're going all out 100%.
England is just the name of a country, it's not the name of a player, so our name does not play football, so we are going out there to give our best and to come out victorious.
England came into town today, and of course, they had a feel of the stadium ahead of the game tomorrow. The last time the Super Falcons of Nigeria and 3 Lionesses of England met was in 1995, and that was in Sweden, England winning 3-2. From the Suncorp Stadium right here in Brisbane, Cecilia Moribwe for Channels Television News.
All the best to the Super Falcons of Nigeria. Arsenal FC has secured the Community Shield after they beat Premier League and FA Cup holders Manchester City 4-1 in a penalty shootout at Wembley Stadium this evening. City took the lead through Cole Palmer in the 77th minute after the attacking midfielder cut inside from the right and curled a superb effort past Aaron Ramsdale and inside the far post. However, with the clock ticking, Arsenal grabbed the stoppage time equaliser through Leandro Trossard, whose shot was deflected past Ortega by Manuel Akanji to send the match to a penalty shootout, which the Gunners won convincingly. And the main news again. The Nigerian military has uncovered an illegal crude oil refining depot in Bayelsa State, precisely in Biogbolo community. However, the suspects fled the site of their nefarious activities. Men of Operation Delta Safe discovered illegally stored crude of about 35,000 litres in the buildings used by the oil thieves. That's the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. Do have a good night.
So my name is Ebalabo. I am passionate about data management.
And that's the competence that propelled Nigeria